right? So to me, addiction isn't about using a substance. That's active addiction in substance use. But our addiction can be active if we're playing out any of those things and not incorporating a recovery program. Understand? Like, recovery program is our treatment of the illness. Understand? You with me? Okay? So I can't give you a pill, I can't give you a drink, I can't give you, right? So what I give you instead is a recovery program. Now, not everybody who comes through Recovery Solutions wants to go to 12-step fellowships. This is what I'll say about the 12-step fellowships. I get it. Why do people go to meetings? To stay clean and sober. Because they're sick. They're sick, okay? The reason people go to meetings is because they're sick. I get it, but the reality is that those sick people all come together and find a solution and help each other with these life on life storms that we couldn't face because the challenges were too much for us and we ended up going to use. So in order to not use, we have to rewind that, go to these places where people who go are sick like us. They might not dress like us, walk like us, talk like us. They might not have the same histories as us or backgrounds as us, but they go there and they come up with solutions and they help each other to incorporate the spiritual principles into their lives. And hopefully, in most cases, it's going to be a safe place for you to work through some of this stuff. Okay, because most people don't have the ability to come to treatment 5 days a week, 6 hours a day for a year, 2 years. So people, go to meetings to help to learn how to incorporate these steps into their lives and apply the spiritual principles of the steps into their life on life's terms situations. Okay? And hopefully, by doing that, it's going to prevent you from needing to pick up something outside of yourself, whether it's a drug or a relationship or shopping or overeating or gambling or whatever the case may be, in order to feel differently. Okay? That our lives have become unmanageable. Now, this one can usually take a long time because we're able to see by the time we get to treatment that things were pretty unmanageable. Most people, unless mom and dad sent them and they can't see it. But most of us who make it to treatment are able to see that life had become unmanageable. And we have lists, right? And hopefully you're starting to write those lists so that because with this illness, once we put the drug down, we start to feel better. And so as we get sick from the administering substances, we usually get sick here first. This goes first. Our spirituality goes first, right? We separate ourselves from whatever spiritual belief system that we have. And it's subtle. We don't necessarily recognize it. And by the time we do recognize it, who needs God anyway? Because now we're in the dark place, right? And then we start to have some distorted thinking, right? I think you're talking about distorted thought processes, distorted thinking patterns now, but our thinking changes, right? So before we started using the drug of destruction or drugs of destruction, we probably had an idea of what it meant to be a good man, a good woman, a good wife, a good husband, a good mom, a good student, a good employee, by the time we're actively into our addiction and we're actively using those drugs of destruction, this changes. And so do the way in which we look at the world, and so do the way that we feel about ourselves, our lives, and others. The last thing to go usually is the physical. So we can walk around, we can go to the grocery store, people might be like, well, I'm not quite sure what's going on with them, they look a little different this week, but it's, it's not really that evident, right? This is evident, but it's not enough for people to really confront, address. This is evident, people are starting to leave your life, you're starting to separate from people don't want to be around it, right? This one, we have incredible denial systems, right? I mean, my people will be in the hospital on ventilators and still be in denial that it was their substance use disorder or the drug destruction. But usually you get sick in this order. You also get better in reverse. This is going to get better first. And this is tricky because once we start to feel better physically, we convince ourselves we're better now. I can take on the responsibilities of being a mom, a wife, a homemaker, a student, employee, whatever, right? As a matter of fact, I'm doing so great, bring it all on at once. Well, we want to make sure that we're helping to teach you to slow things down. Because just because we're starting to get better physically doesn't mean that we have healed emotionally or spiritually yet. Okay? So we want to make sure that we understand what our motives are, we want to understand our addiction, we want to understand our recovery plan, we want to have a good idea of how to incorporate these things before we go taking on the world. And hopefully by the time that you start to heal in all of these areas, you'll find it really beneficial not to take on the world. Like, I only have so much energy. These are scales. There's only so much of me, right? There's only so much that I can be successful at. And if I'm going to be successful at anything, the first and foremost thing that I need to do is what?
Take care of yourself.
The straight plan's over. Don't use no matter what. Because as soon as I use, all of my choices go out the window. I don't have any choices anymore, and I don't make good decisions. Even if I think I do, I don't make good decisions. Okay? So the first thing I need to do is make sure that my recovery plan is solid. I can't take care of my kids if my recovery plan is not solid. I cannot be a good employee if my recovery plan is not solid. I can't be a good student if my recovery plan is not solid. I can't be a good mom, wife. Nothing I do is going to be okay if my recovery plan is not solid. Now there's a whole bunch of stuff in there that I have to do in order to make sure that my recovery plan is solid, right? I have to go to meetings every day. It's my medicine. It's my medicine. Left without going to meetings, the distorted thoughts come in, the complaining comes in, the judgmental comes in, the manipulation comes in. I think that the world should be revolving around me comes in, the self-centeredness, right? All that stuff comes flooding in. This is what I know from being in recovery for a very long time. Usually at minimum, 4 meetings a week after you've developed a solid recovery plan keeps that thinking at least in a realm of positive. If you drop below 4 meetings a week, this is Pamela's plan, okay? And that's like after 2 or 3 years in recovery, okay? If you drop below 4 meetings a week, usually you can start to see the negativity come in and all that goes with it, okay? But at first, a meeting a day, that's our medicine. If we have diabetes and the doctor said, you need to take, this vial of insulin every day. And I said, well,